To the redistricting wars heating up across the South as some Democratic lawmakers play the race card in their fight against Republicans. Those big names like AOC and Cory Booker taking the stage in Alabama over the weekend, rallying supporters at voting rights events that were taking place. Watch here.
We are here because a white supremacist dictator known as President Donald Trump thought he could silence us.
It is time for the North to pull up to the South.
Here I am. Here I stand. Take someone's hand and say like our ancestors did and make it true. We shall overcome.
There are people in this hostile anti-black administration that would rather black Americans pick cotton than pick the president, than pick their congressperson, than pick a senator.
Kamala Harris also jumping into the conversation. The former vice president accusing Republicans of using racism to cheat in elections.
They're basically backdooring racism through politics. They know the power of the people and it scares them. Because if they thought on merit that they would win, they wouldn't have to resort to this cheating. I've been thinking about, we need to have basically a no bad ideas brainstorm. That's how I'm thinking about it. Yep. Like a good old fashioned no bad ideas brainstorm.
So we won't, but we could do the entire hour on this topic. Let's go first to Harold and your take on the Democrats' reaction here to the Supreme Court and the redistricting wars that we are in.
So good to be with you. Glad that you were back, and I'm glad the book tour went well. I think about this differently than some of my friends and former colleagues in Congress. I view this as a fight that we're having over power. And the currency that is being used is obviously politics and redistricting. Now, interestingly, in the Democrat side, I've heard Senator Warnock and a few others talk about this. Senator Warnock is African-American. He represents a state that is majority white, yet he was elected a United States Senator. You have 4 Republican black members of Congress who represent districts that are predominantly right: Byron Donalds, Wesley Hunt, John James, Burgess Owens. You also have a senator from Delaware, black woman senator from Delaware, who represents a predominantly white state, and a senator from Maryland. And obviously Tim Scott from South Carolina, Republican. I understand what they're trying to say, but I think it's important that we put all of this in context. My difficulty and difference with all of this, Dana, is that we're doing this redistricting during mid-decades. Everyone accepts that there's politics in redistricting. You do it at the beginning of a decade. You count the number of people in your state. You may get a reallocation of your congressional districts more or less depending on how big the state is or how much it's grown or shrunk. And generally, if a state has grown in population, you get rewarded with more congressional districts. And if you're a Republican governor or a Democrat governor, if you happen to be at that time, you get rewarded with the opportunity to draw those districts. The court has said that race cannot be a predominant factor, the only factor in doing it. I do think we'd probably be having a different conversation. A cynic in me says that if the Supreme Court said that you couldn't draw districts with a big number of non-college educated white men, that's unconstitutional. We'd probably be saying something differently about this. I wish and hope for a day where race has no bearing at all on how we draw districts. But what I hope for more than anything, and what man can be a part of doing, is saying that we will not redraw districts mid-decade. For Republicans that are happy about this right now because the numbers might be in their favor, Democrats at some point are going to have the majorities in the governorships in these states, and they may do the same. I pray that they don't, but they may do the same. But I caution my Democratic friends to leave the race out of it. We have a lot of progress in this country on the racial front. We have a long way to go as well. But when you have a black president in the last 20 years, you have black members of Congress who are Democrat and Republican representing predominantly white districts, and you have black senators representing predominantly white states, to me, that flies in the face of some of the things that we heard in our opening.
The other thing that they kept saying repeatedly in the bat signal talking points, Jesse, was that the Republicans are cheating. And I wonder how that will stick, because the Supreme Court ruled, and that's cheating. But if they like what the Supreme Court says, then it's legitimate.
I just noticed that AOC was speaking behind a bulletproof glass. Donald Trump doesn't even do that. Why was she doing that? Cory Booker didn't do that. Randy Weingartner didn't do that. I don't even know why Randy's there. What does she care? I mean, test scores are going way down. She should be in hiding, but not there. Is there a specific credible threat against AOC's life? Shouldn't we know about this?
That's still from January 6th. She's still...
Probably. I don't want to make light of it or anything like that. We called her office to see why did she deliver a speech behind bulletproof glass, and she didn't get back to us. Hopefully that's, there is no threat, but I don't know. If there was an option to speak behind bulletproof glass, she decided to take that. Did someone tell her to do that? Or did she believe she was in such danger that she needed to do that? I have no idea. But she's talking tough anyway behind the bulletproof glass, and she's behind the bulletproof glass calling Trump weak. This guy got shot in the head, bounced up, and took the White House. He's not weak. The things she's saying and the things her crew is saying are actually putting lives in danger, calling people white supremacists, saying we want blacks picking cotton, saying that the North needs to fight the South again. I mean, this is nuts. You have a Supreme Court with 2 black justices, a Hispanic justice, a Jewish justice, 1 white justice, adopted 2 Haitian children. This is not a racist court. It's probably the most diverse court in the history of the country. This is not a racist country. We just found out the left was financing racism with donations. So the race card, it just doesn't hit the way it used to. And I am with my friend Harold. I think it should stop.
Greg, Kamala Harris also says because of this, they should have a no bad ideas brainstorm.
Yeah, we covered this last week. The moment somebody says no bad ideas, it's because they have no ideas. I've never been in a meeting where it begins with no bad ideas and you get anything out of it. She has nothing upstairs. Look, what's interesting, if you look at the crowds, it's almost all white in these things, which is interesting. I do admire the dedication to a fad. Everybody's grown up, moved on, settled down, and they're still living in the past. Those leaders are living in the past, which is what the race card literally is. You're living in the past to imprint it on the future. The things that they say are happening aren't happening. It used to work. We used to be paralyzed by the fear of the scarlet letter R for racism, but the race card doesn't work anymore on half the population who sees through it. The other half are just doing it out of habit. But, we disarmed the left because we lost the fear. And so now it's just a gun shooting blanks. You may appeal to the voter who agrees on race, but you already had them. And absent of other tools beyond the race card, you are kind of like a fat, out of shape fighter with no way to win but to call out the refs or just cancel the whole game. The underlying emotion in all of this is that the Dems have exploited fear. And it's not just here. If you think about how profoundly awful was trans rights for kids, to give perverse men the agency over our children's sexuality. How did that happen? It was we feared the swarm of activists calling us transphobic. We feared being called bigots if we came out against illegal immigration. We feared punishing criminals because we thought we were going to be called racist. Once you lose the fear, you can finally get back to the normal way things go. And the Democratic Party, in my opinion, still has to do that. They haven't done it. They're still on the same path to destruction they've always been on, which is identity politics. It's taken this country down a terrible path. Harold brought up 20 years ago, race relations were better. All the polls show that. They were better.
I don't think so.
Oh, yes, they were. Well,
I think the natural progression as we get better. We're going to speed bumps.
All right, I'm just using the polling. I'm pulling at Jessica here. The polling on race relations were far more optimistic before Barack Obama was elected, and then it just got worse and worse. And I'm not saying it's on him, but I'm trying to figure out what happened since then. Did the KKK return? Was discrimination now decided to be illegal? Was there some kind of attack that happened? No. The only thing that happened was the attack on the idea of the melting pot. The idea that you're an American first, doesn't matter how you look or what gender you are. They created a poison, a toxin that they put in that melting pot. And now, all of a sudden, race relations are worse and people are at each other's throat, but primarily in these little factions in the identity politic world. This is a filter, Harold, and I'm talking about identity politics. It is a filter put in place to destroy a country because it's absolutely opposite What a melting pot
We
is.
shouldn't forget we have a history in our country where we had slavery for a long time.
Yes, and we ended slavery. And we ended it, Harold. We fought a war to end it. I think aren't we the only country to ever fight a war to end slavery? We didn't start slavery. Where did slavery start? It's an ugly fact. It's not from us.
But Greg, then we had laws in our books that didn't allow black people.
I understand that.
So I agree with you. I agree with you about the race. I wish they didn't talk about race, but would you agree with me that you shouldn't redraw congressional lines mid-decade? That's what the president's doing.
I don't care.
Well, no.
I look at the congression. I look at these districts, and I see all of these Republicans and no representation. That's wrong.
But here's the thing: I can tell you what this is wrong about race.
I'm talking.
But we have to be on the level here. You should not redraw lines in the middle of a decade. You should do it at the beginning of a decade, like everyone else has done. The president decided to do it a different way.
I didn't hear that argument against Virginia and California.
But they were responding to Indiana.
They're not responding to it. California had already redistricted themselves into a corner. New Hampshire.
Not mid-decade. At the beginning of the decade, they did.
I don't like the redistricting at all because this is what you get. I mean, what you get is an ongoing political war that, and I have to give progressives credit for it because they have played class warfare to the hilt, and they have gotten a lot of mayorships because of it. They've gotten a lot of attention, and now they're getting a lot of money from establishment Democrats who are void of ideas. If some of your fellow Democrats would listen to the things that you talk about consistently, your party would be in much better shape, but they're terrified to do that. And they have been terrorized by these progressives that since they played the class warfare card so well, now they're going to the race warfare card. And it's awful. It puts us in such a horrific moment in our country that it almost becomes insurmountable. And Greg is absolutely right. 20 years ago, we were all raised to be colorblind. We were raised to want to have friends from different parts of the city and different parts of the country. And now you are telling people that they have to be forced to live in certain areas. And if you are black and you are middle class and you want to be upper middle class and you want to use that economic mobility to move to a safer, better part of your state, you're being told by Justin Pearson and AOC and Cory Booker that you're a traitor. That is nonsense. We have to see beyond that in our families, in our communities, in our politics. But with the attention whores, like the people screaming into bullhorns today, that is an impossibility.
There was a guy in Virginia, a radio host, who told a Republican woman who was in Congress that he's against Hakeem Jeffries coming down to Virginia and trying to dictate what to do. He was fine to say that. Then he said at the end, tell him to keep his cotton-picking hands off Virginia. That was race. He should not have said that. Now, I don't disagree with a lot of things you guys said about identity politics, but when race is obvious, it needs to be called out. In this instance, Greg, I would agree with you. Race is not obvious in what they're talking about, but we should not be redrawing districts mid-decade.
All right.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.